anything that this is something new that my understanding you haven't done before, and again, in 2021, I think there were items that you wanted to get rid of that were worth over $1,000, and you did it in the correct way by legislation, calling for them to be disposed of. I think it was done by auction, if I remember.
And Mr. Federoff and Mrs. Stemper, did you have anything on that? No. Anybody else?
Yes, Mayor.
Yeah.
I think what we're thinking of is when we sold those transformers. Because I remember it came up again later on. We were selling transformers that had to go out to auction. If I remember correctly, that's the only time I remember anything like this being done in September of last year.
Yeah, and we did look, and if you guys know of something, I think it was 2021 35 or something like that.
Yeah, I don't recall.
Look for that one, but
Brad, let's straighten it out. Do you think this legislation that you propose will straighten it all out?
I think it gives council greater flexibility in this future to handle these things. It doesn't tie your hands.
Like you just don't want to go through redundancy.
If there's no other discussion, whenever the clerk is ready to call for the roll.
Mrs. Stemper?
Yes.
Mr. Federoff?
Yes.
Mr. Cardiac?
Yes.
Mrs. Webster?
Yes.
Mr. Granchi?
Yes.
The ordinance passes. Okay. Ordinance 2022-39, whenever the clerk is ready to read.
Ordinance 2022-39, an ordinance repealing ordinance number 2022-23, which authorized the city manager to accept a proposal from GPD Group for the Ridge Road Distribution Pole Line Design Project.
Okay, do we have a motion?
So moved.
Do we have a second?
I'll second.
Mr. Granchi first it, Mrs. Stemper seconds it. Any discussion?
Yes, Mayor, read that for.
You have the floor.
With this ordinance that I'm looking to repeal, we got the information from Mr. George saying that this is going to be $160,000 project when it's all said and done. We've heard from Mr. Bariak saying that we have all this commerce coming. I'm blatantly unaware of it. If there are any plans in it, I am half the economic development board. I make myself available for meetings. I go to meetings every time I have one scheduled. So there's no reason why I wouldn't know about it. Further, I said it the first time, I'll say it again, there is no return on our investment here. We are looking at decades before we see a return on this investment. And I am not okay with making a six-figure bet of taxpayer money on a maybe. I'm not hedging my bets on the backs of the people. So I want to repeal this. If something comes up along the way, we can fight with Ohio Edison about it. I don't know, but right now, this is not good for our village. Ohio Edison already services the base. They just have to run one across 534. We're not losing any amount of money here, honestly. We're going to lose a ton of money, and not from a lack of revenue, but we're not going to get anything out of it for decades. If we had some strip mall or something like that going up over there, I could absolutely understand wanting to provide the power to it. But it is a sole Dunkin' Donuts.
Anybody else?
Yes.
Mr. Moran?
I'm sorry, Mr. Granchi, that you didn't get into the meeting.
It wasn't invited.
We had Mr. George in, and we've come up with a lot of very different figures. Number one, the $43,000 was asked to go out for another quote, and we already came down to $38,000. The poles, insulators, in that $11,330. Insulators, $562. The wire and miscellaneous, $8,000. All that was included on the $65,000. In other words, you put that down to double bill that, and we caught it when we read the quote, that all that material was included. Now, the thing that hasn't been bid out is the tree work. The pulling truck, I went to Merck Equipment, and the digger truck is $5,600 and maybe $3,000 for a puller. That's by the month. The flagging, we don't know about the flagging yet. And if we did need the pulling equipment in the digger truck, we might be able to get mutual aid. If not, we have a decent price for Merck up the road. Flagging the state route estimated at 2,000 a week. We don't know right now whether we can't do, our men have been to school. They can't do this themselves by putting up 3 signs and having one, because all our men have just been trained. What else here? We won't know whether we're going to need an underground bore, and we won't know whether we're going to need the underground bar was $18,000. We're right now, sir, we're about $80,000. I'll tell you what, our future is electric, and electric is the future. And for $80,000, Mr. I don't know where it came up, but we're going to take 20 years to pay it off. If you can show me that. But we have a lot, we have the money. We had $190,000. We asked Mr. George, could he spare $145,000? He said he had nothing going this year except a new digger truck. What do we need a new digger truck if we're not going to dig? If we're not going to be digging poles and doing what our electric department is scheduled to do? So we wiped out $65,000. Mr. George said they'd be glad to do it. We won't know how much tree cutting we'll get until we do get the property surveyed, because they have to be set at 50-foot right of way. In other words, from the center of a state road, from the dead center to the edge, you can't go more than 50 foot. It has to be set right on the line. We don't even know if we'll need even a bigger truck than our 48-foot one that will reach over 48 foot right now. Mr. George said he'd be glad to do the job. They could do it. And at $80,000 and maybe even less, I don't see at $2,500 a month to $3,000, $36,000. Well, I understand we have to buy the electricity, but we're not banking on just one customer out there. I'll tell you what, there are going to be in development out there. We can't say right now what's going on. I'll be glad to talk to Mr. Granchi down the road here. As soon as something is concrete and not just hearsay, I wouldn't leave him out on anything. But let's see, 2,500 to 3,000 a month times 10, 36,000 a year times 3. Even if we only make half of that within 6-7 years, it's paid for. It's paid for, and we have the electricity. We control. Any other business goes up there, like maybe a little mini mall or battery charging station or something like that, which helps our hotels, which helps everything. And industry needs acreage, is why I preached last meeting to work for a JED, so we can work with our neighbors rather than fighting. And because there is going to be development on Route 5, it's our future.
Mr. Federoff, Spencer, Stilfer, did you guys?
Well, go ahead. Hey, I've looked at this, and you can't look into the future. You can have a pretty good idea what it's going to bring. Think of yourself sitting here playing cards. Right now, we're looking at the end. We've already sat down at the table. We've already got the property. We're already moved into it. And now, are you going to fold before the rest of the cards are dealt? On this particular one right here, is talking about commercial property, commercial, someone even mentioned a strip mall. Well, that's up to whoever develops the property. But on any development, anywhere, you have to have an anchor. And Dunkin' Donuts would be an anchor. It would attract other businesses in. Take a look at the strip malls around in your area. They all have an anchor store, a store that draws other in. And that's where we're at right now. Are we gonna give away our electric? We already paid for that. That money that's in there for the electric, we already paid it. If they've already taken that out of your electric thing, are we gonna use it to develop and get maybe a return on that? Because that's normally the method of taking, of getting, yeah, I can't put it out there just exactly the way I want. But when you invest in something, you expect a return. We've invested. And now we have the opportunity to get a return by staying in the game. If you want to give it to Ohio Edison, I remember some people that had pretty good portfolio on Ohio Edison. I'm not one of them. I've invested my money right here in Newton Falls Electric. Didn't have a choice, but I invested it, okay? So now here's the chance to get a return on it. Let's play the cards out and see where they're laid before we decide to fold and let another group take it. Thank you.
Ms. Stemper, did you have something?
I'm gonna reference my June 7th email that I sent asking if there's a return of investment analysis. Not a response. Not a response. To piggyback on what Mr. Barriak said in regards to, you know, they've got a 25, I forget the numbers he said, but he was basically saying that we're getting a 50% return. So is our electric company making 50% off of what they're charging me for electric? If they are, they should be having a mansion over there. They do not make a 50% profit off of our electric. I think I have more data and information creating my grocery list than I do supporting. I've got nothing in writing other than what Mr. Barriak sets up here and says, and what we learned from Mr. George. No response to an email. I have a hard time saying we're going to keep spending money on something that we might need this, we might need that, we're not sure how many trees we're going to need. That should all be planned out with a minimum and a maximum. It should be in writing and it should be presented when you're coming and asking us to spend taxpayer dollars.
I don't know. Anybody needs
Let me see if Ms. Fletcher was going to address.
Yes, I will say a couple of things. People need to keep in mind that this will be coming out of the enterprise fund. This will be coming out of 503, right, Mr. Housley? 503 is the electric department. This is money that will come out of the enterprise funds, and we just sold the annex building, which was 55. Okay. So that money will go, into the enterprise funds for electric. So I see it as being, and like Mr. Federoff said, we've already made the investment. We've already invested in the property out there. We've already, Dunkin' Donuts is interested in that location because we're going to be providing them with the water and the sewage too. So, it's a total package deal. Getting our electricity out there to them makes it a total package. And I believe that is the focus, or where the focus should be for economic development, is what do we have potentially to gain in the future as well. This is a one-time, you can't look at just this one project because it could open the door to other projects down the road.
Okay, Mr. Barrick, did you want to second?
Yeah, if I went too quick, I'm not saying we're gonna make 50% profit. But here's what I wanna ask. Where to show me that it's gonna take 100 years? When we sat down together with Dunkin' Donut, there was no problem with the economic development team, and you were there, Mr. Granchi. All of a sudden, it goes south. I got an email from somebody that doesn't even live in this state anymore, and his opinion. Who cares about what he thinks? Can you prove to me, Mrs. Stemper, that it's going to take 100 years for us to get this money back? You have the figures?
Me that it won't. This is your legislation.
Well, just at $80,000 is what and it could be less than what the figures boiled down. Not 145 after we sat down. Mr. George was there with me, man. Mr. George was there.
Where's it at? Where's the plan? Where's the proposal? Where's it?
I've got it right here. This is it right here, man.
Here's what we do. Every council person gets 2 opportunities to talk for 3 minutes, that's fine. When you're done, Mrs. Stemper can talk, or Mr. Granch, or whoever else, so continue on, you've got a couple more minutes.
I'm not trying to start a fight here. But look, there's not gonna be any money on the water and sewer out there. And we passed an ordinance in 2015 where if you wanted to come into the village, you buy our electricity. The man is willing to pay a half a cent more now because he knows he wants all the utilities. And I sat there with Mr. Granchi and I said, we're not gonna cherry pick the utilities. He agreed. He's willing to pay a half a cent more. Now, I'm not gonna say, I don't know where it's gonna be years and years and years and years. That comes off of somebody that's not even in this state anymore. That's how an email got floating around and Facebook. $80,000 is a drop in the bucket if we get another, and we're moving forward. There are people calling us as soon as there's something concrete. Mr. Granchi, surely something concrete, you will be in every one. I'm the one that asked for you to be on economic development, don't you remember?
I do.
All right, thank you very much, sir.
So anybody else want to second the rest?
I'd just like to say, we have a plan, this is a big thing, there should be a proposal. Stuff in writing.
Okay, anyone else?
Yes, Mayor Rutherford.
You have the floor.
I actually love the poker reference that Mr. Federoff made. Because if I'm playing Texas Hold'em and I have 2 hearts in my hand, and right off the flop there's 2 more hearts, that's a pretty good hand. Would I bet someone else's money on it, knowing that there's 39 other cards in that deck, and only 9 of them are hearts? No, it's not my money. That's what this is. This is not our money to spend, it is our constituents' money. We compared the amount of profit to Taco Bell. Like I said last time, frequent flyer, know their hours. They're open until 3 a.m., they open at 8. That's what? Couple of 5 hours that they're not operating as opposed to the 24-hour Dunkin' Donuts. There's your profit margin right there. Extrapolate from there. It's not much. We're not building the Taj Mahal off of Taco Bell right now. And we won't off of Dunkin' Donuts. The profit margins are just not there. And we're not stopping an investment because this is the first step of making this investment for electric. So there's no sunk cost in this. We're not losing money by not doing this. We are looking at something that we could potentially never see the profit of. None of us. And I'm not saying our guys can't do it. I guarantee you our guys can do it. It's not about whether our guys can do it. It's the price that they can do it for. And the price that the materials are going to cost, and the price of the planet, the price of every other thing. This makes no sense for our village. We are hedging our bets on a maybe with other people's money. 6 figures of other people's money. And I don't support that, and I will never support something like that. That's all I have.
Anybody else? Okay, if not, maybe the clerk is ready to call for the roll.
Wait, I do have a question. Because you're saying 6 digits of somebody else's money. You're using the number you got from Mr. George.
We all have Mr. George.
And Mr. Bariak just gave us a figure of around 80,000. Does that includes this 43,000, right?
It does. The labor is the labor anyhow. If they do it, we had a price for labor of $65,000 with you, and also with all that other stuff I read when we sat down with Mr. George, that was all included. But the labor's already paid for. Our men are going to do it. So take 65,000 right off 145. What's that come to? Without any of the other stuff we've already bid down, would be crazy to let somebody else have the electricity and then something else develops out there. Ohio Edison's got it. Ohio Edison's got it. Ohio, we get a factory out there. Then what do we do? Run poles, zigzag them and try to cross under the road, or God knows, we'll be out. It's short-sighted thinking here for a little bit of money.
Ms. Spencer's out of the way.
I have the figures here. I'm prepared to show the public.
Anytime the clerk is ready to call for the roll.
Mr. Corrigan?
No. That means I don't want to pass his motion to rescind it, right?
Yeah.
No.
Mrs. Spencer?
No.
Mr. Grinchy?
Yes.
Mrs. Stempert?
Yes.
Mr. Federoff?
No.
Okay, ordinance fails. Ordinance 2022-40.
Ordinance 2022-40, an emergency ordinance authorizing the city manager to enter into an agreement with Arcadis US Incorporated to identify and map lead water service lines needing replacement in connection with a H2 Ohio Direct Assistance PWS Ohio EPA grant.
We have a motion.
I'll make that motion.
We have a second.
Second.
Ms. Blitzer, any discussion?
This ordinance I'm sponsoring is to identify lead, any other copper, any other areas that we encompass, let us clean our issue. I know we don't have a lot of lead contamination right now, but it's to help us identify what's ancient. That's all I'm going to say.
Anybody else?
Yes, Mayor Rappaport.
Yes, Laura.
Do we know when this study would take place?
Mayor, if I can, my understanding is it would start almost immediately, and that's the reason for the emergency.
That was why I was asking.
Taking away
If
the-
there was something earmarked for the future, then I didn't see an emergency, but if it's something that we're trying to find lead in water
And
lines.
and just to clarify, there's a $50,000 grant the village is receiving to pay for this service, which is $49,200. So it's up to $50,000, and then once the lead pipes are identified, there's additional opportunities to get money to.
So time is of the essence also.
Yes.
Correct, understood. Thank you.
Anybody else?
Quick question. When were we notified about this? If it was a grant, like, when, do we know when we got notification that we would do this? Or could do this?
I know I'm not sure about the grant, but I think the Arcadis contract was received about a month ago.
So we've had this for a month and then put on the agenda for an emergency, or we're waiting on stuff?
That's correct.
Which is correct, we were waiting on stuff, or we've known for a month and just got on the agenda?
I think we've known about it, and it just went on the agenda for about a month.
Thank you.
Okay,
I couldn't hear you, Mr.
July 5th, I think is when the contract was received and written, so it's probably shortly after that.
Mr. Federoff, Ms. Blitzer, anything? Okay, anybody want to second? Okay, if it's not, whenever the clerk is ready to call for the roll.
Mrs. Spencer?
Yes.
Mr. Grinchy?
Yes.
Mrs. Stempert?
Yes.
Mr. Federoff?
Yes.
Mr. Corrigan?
Yes.
Okay, that passes, and we need to do it a second time. Ordinance 2022-40, do we have a motion? Okay, Mr.
Second.
Green, Ms.
41, isn't it, sir?
No, second reading.
Oh, I'm sorry.
Okay, Mr. Gramsci and Ms. Blitzer, is there any needed discussion on this? Okay. If not, whenever the clerk is ready to call for the roll.
Mr. Corrigan?
Yes.
Mrs. Spencer?
Yes.
Mr. Grinchy?
Yes.
Mrs. Stempert?
Yes.
Mr. Federoff?
Yes.
The ordinance passes. Okay. Ordinance 2022-41. Whenever the clerk is ready to read.
Ordinance 2022-41, an emergency ordinance establishing the rate of pay for department crew chiefs.
Okay, we have a motion.
I'll make that motion.
Mr. Moria,
Second.
Mr. Federoff. Any discussion?
Yes, Mayor Rappaport.
Yes.
Do we have anyone up here who knows what the difference between a crew chief and a supervisor is? I assume it's the difference, like a supervisor and a manager. Is this a position that we've created officially, or is this, I don't understand where this is coming from. Does anyone know?
I do. We've had this position of crew chief for a long time. As a matter of fact, before Mr. Chucky Lane was promoted superintendent or what, supervisor, whatever, what do you call it, department head? Whatever. He was a crew chief. This is not new. This is we'll have a crew chief, the position and the rate set for the crew chief. That's what it's about.
So that's the terminology for a lead person. basically.
Lead man. Right.
Did you have?
I don't know if I'm missing anything on it. That's all I can tell you right now is that we've had it in the past. Mr. Chucky Lane was a crew chief till he was promoted, and it sets the rate of pay.
Okay, my next question was that, if I may.
Yeah.
Same thing as the last one. What is the thought behind making this an emergency? Why does this need to be passed immediately?
Mr. Housley, do you have anything on that where that would be determined because of pay periods or anything like that, or?
Timing is of the essence here because you've got attrition in the relevant department. Just needs to take effect.
If I may address, I may have some insight to this, although,
Or are you?
Yes.
Okay. Let Mrs. Stemper go first because she asked.
In reference to what Mr. Howley's saying, we knew attrition was coming for a while. So why are we doing it as an emergency now when we knew that was coming? And two, if we had crew chiefs before, where's the ordinances or whatever that supported that? Why are we doing the new one? Where's the old one? We couldn't have just had a crew chief position without anything there.
Right.
I looked, I couldn't find anything.
Mayor, I may have to answer that. I think it may have been in the form of a contract before, maybe a union contract. I don't know that the authority was vested with council previously. So I believe that's this legislation. And pertaining to being aware of the attrition and trying to resolve the best way to approach the attrition at two different timely times. And there's been a lot of thought how that role should proceed after the attrition. And it's taken until this point.
Mr. Housley, I wanted to say that this is necessary because back when Harry had whatever it was, a knee replacement or a hip replacement, there was somebody else that stepped into his role, and there is an old payroll ordinance that's like from 2016 maybe, 2018. And that old payroll ordinance didn't account for the new supervisors making $72,500. Because the way that old payroll ordinance is worded is that whoever steps into that supervisor's role gets, the portion of the pay difference and stuff like that. So I'm assuming that this is due to the attrition and the problem that we had to deal with, when there was somebody that did step in and fill that role. So this just kind of cleans that up.
Yes.
Although, the entire payroll ordinance itself needs an overhaul, this at least cleans up that crew chief position.
Mr. Boria,
Quick.
Mr. Federoff, are you good? Yes, sir.
Yes.
Okay. Either one of you guys.
All I want to say is that I piggyback. This is to clarify and give the city manager the authorization to pay, the crew chief to pay, so we don't go down. I get this, I don't get this, remember? I piggyback on you, man, that you're exactly right.
Mr. Federoff.
Yeah, in reading the ordinance here, it says section 2, the city manager shall establish the crew chief's exact pay rate with the above pay scale dependent upon the individual crew chief's qualifications and experience. So this isn't something that locks us into $22, $29 in a perpetuity. Rate of inflation, we're having trouble keeping people out. Imagine what that would do to us. This gives the city manager the authority to raise the rate for current conditions if you would.
Anybody else?
And just real quick, and I can't wrap my head around it because we knew this was coming, and even we have department heads that are, getting closer to those years of retirement. I'd like to be proactive instead of reactive, not waiting until after nutrition has happened. We should have had this before.
Okay, any other discussion? If not, whenever the clerk's ready to call for the roll.
Mr. Granchi?
Yes.
Ms. Stempert?
Yes.
Mr. Federoff?
Yes.
Mr. Variak?
Yes.
Ms. Bledsoe?
Yes.
Okay, that passes. Second reading on it. So ordinance 2022-41, do we have a motion?
So moved.
Second.
Mr. Granchi and Ms. Stemper.
No,
Lesser.
That's right. That's right. I changed my names from an S to
Would be a council meeting without it.
Mr. and Mrs.
Is there any discussion needed? Okay, if not, we're going to call for the
Mr.
roll.
Federoff?
Yes.
Mr. Variak? Ms. Bledsoe?
Yes.
Mr. Granchi?
Yes.
Ms. Stempert?
Yes.
Okay, ordinance passes.
Mayor, can I just say something quick? Going back to answer Ms. Stimpert's question about the Arcadis contract, although we did have that shortly after July 5th, I was the holdup why it didn't get on the second July meeting because I wanted to see more paperwork on the grant to make sure that we were getting reimbursed by the grant before we put this before council. So,
Thank you for that clarification.
okay. Thanks, Mayor.
Public comments limited or are open to non-agenda items also, so give your name, your address, and 3 minutes.
Jamie Klein, 3 Walbridge Road. I wasn't gonna come down here, I was watching the video. Started getting a little bit aggravated, so I came down here because I feel I need to speak my mind. As a Ward 1 resident, Mr. Federoff, I love you dearly. We're neighbors. But I have to disagree with some of the things that you're up here doing. Because I feel that John and Tessa got there yesterday. And that's what your Ward 1 is sitting here. Quite a few of your Ward 1 is sitting here. We are in Ward 1. Taxes. You guys said a few weeks ago, months ago, that these taxes would affect the elderly. But it's going to affect us. It's going to affect me. My taxes are already going up high. I thought you were against the taxes. I had high hopes. One meeting in and I'm sad. I'm very sad. I really am. And as far as this vehicle, I bought a 2006 vehicle for $6,000 that had 160,000 miles on it. Did it need work? Yes, sure did. But I still paid it, and I still fixed it, and I still drove it. Would I have bought that car for $1,500 and fixed it up and given it to my kid? Yep, sure would, because any vehicle you buy now, you have to put the money in to keep it on the road. I have brand new vehicles that I have to put money into to keep them on the road. I just put in over $1,000 on my car, and it's a 16 to keep it on the road. You guys are up here for us, and it seems there's only 2 that are sitting up there that listen to us. The other ones, you guys are going on your own agenda. You're sitting up there gaslighting us, Mr. Variak. We're not dumb. I listen to Mr. Granchi. I would take the word of Mr. Granchi any day about what's going on with that project. Because I believe that Mr. George did say it was going to cost over $140,000, and you can give me whatever papers you want. I don't care. Tell me where you're going to put a strip mall down there, and do you got some development for it? You're going to maybe, should, maybe could,
And you have to wrap up your point, your time's up.
come back to real life. Sorry.
Annie Eby, 50 West 9th Street. I've been told all I do is come up here and just complain. So I have a question and then I'm going to say something that's not a complaint. My question is, where are we with suing Lynch? And if we're going to get any money from him, put back into this, you're going to make me keep paying this tax that you all okayed tonight. Enough. I want you guys all to grab a pen and paper and write this number down. It's 844-809-6834. And when your constituents call you, you give them that number. That is for the Trumbull County aggregate for your gas bill. You can get it for $3.99 MCF. And anybody who does apples to apples is either at $8 or $9 right now. And why we weren't ever told any of this, I don't know. But I think it should have come from you. Thank you.
Adam Zimmerman, 515 Lily Avenue. First of all, I'd like to kind of piggyback off of what Ms. Klein said here tonight. Mr. Federoff, congratulations on your appointment. But in 2 meetings, you totally reversed your stance that you spent years railing against new taxes, and you railed against people voting for emergencies that weren't emergencies, yet you voted for 3 of them tonight. 2 meetings, you rattled everything you stand for, so why should we believe anything you say from this time forward? Other thoughts all over the place. The emergencies, the only reason we have emergencies tonight are because of poor planning, poor leadership from our city manager. If these were planned out ahead of time, not one of these emergencies would have been an emergency tonight. Not one. Yet we had 3 tonight. Just a thought on the police levy. The grant that's expiring, we've only had it for what, 2 years, 3 at the most. We had a police department before we had that grant, and we'll continue to have a police department after that grant. Tonight, you heard that you're going to be revamping the sign ordinance. I've already proven that the sign ordinance is unconstitutional. Go ahead, revamp it all you want, just open yourself up to lawsuits. We spent 20 minutes tonight, 20 minutes arguing whether you're going to let your committees come in here and use council chambers. You said you don't trust the members of those committees to be in here. They're already in here.